Welcome, operatives, to the Corporate Files Lab, case file #012. Today's intelligence briefing: the mirror system, how Russia's shadow grid resurrected a dead exchange and moved $100 billion.
It is a heavy file today.
It really is. We are pulling from a massive stack of intelligence for this deep dive. We have Chainalysis crypto crime reports, U.S. Treasury sanctions designations, and financial data from TRM Labs.
Not to mention the undercover sting by Transparency International.
Right, and the A7 leaks. That is the real gold mine of internal documents. Our mission today is to decode the mechanics of this shadow grid. We're going to unpack how the agency model works, profile the architects who built it, and look at the cold reality of modern financial warfare.
Which is that traditional sanctions are becoming entirely obsolete in the blockchain era.
Exactly. For those of you listening, if you are trying to understand the future of global finance, this is your masterclass in how money actually moves today. It is not about bags of cash in dark alleys anymore.
No, it is about decentralized networks. It is state-sponsored digital workarounds.
So let's set the scene with a pretty striking, almost cinematic contrast. Picture this. It is March 6, 2025. International law enforcement pulls off what looks like a massive, definitive victory.
On paper, anyway.
Right, on paper. The U.S. Secret Service, allied with German and Finnish law enforcement, they raid the servers of a notorious Russian crypto exchange called Garantex. They seize the web domains, they freeze assets.
A textbook takedown.
It looks like it. The U.S. Department of Justice unseals indictments against the top executives, Alexander Serda and Alexei Beshikov.
Beshikov actually died of a heart attack in a Delhi prison in August of 2025, just a few months after being arrested in India.
Which just adds to the whole noir reality of this case. So the authorities are high-fiving. They froze $26 million in crypto. But while they're counting those seized millions, a $100 billion shadow economy was already humming along on a brand new platform.
It is the ultimate illusion of victory. From an intelligence analysis perspective, seizing $26 million from an entity that moves $100 billion is, well, it's a statistical rounding error.
It barely registers.
It doesn't register at all. Before its downfall, Garantex was the Hydra of the crypto world. 82% of its volume was linked to sanctioned entities. They were the premier laundromat for ransomware gangs like Ryuk, Conti, and Lockbit.
And within literally days of this supposedly fatal law enforcement strike, a new exchange called Grinex just appears online.
Popped up like nothing happened. And the intelligence reports make it very clear that Grinex was not some frantic last-minute scramble.
Right. They didn't just throw this together over a weekend.
Not at all. It was a premeditated continuity of operations plan. If you pull the corporate filings, Grinex was registered in Kyrgyzstan back in December 2024.
Months before the raid.
Exactly. They anticipated the strike. When Grinex launched, it had the exact same user interface as Garantex. It even explicitly promised to help frozen Garantex users recover their funds.
But that begs a massive logistical question. If the original exchange is sanctioned and the authorities are watching all the old wallets, how do you actually move the frozen assets to the new exchange?
You certainly don't wire it through a bank.
Right.
You create your own money. This is where the network deployed a ghost token, specifically a digital asset called A7A5.
Let's break that down clinically. A7A5 is a stablecoin.
Yes, meaning its value is pegged one-to-one to a traditional fiat currency, in this case, the Russian ruble.
But the technical gymnastics they use to move the tainted money is wild. Global Ledger Analytics tracked the wash cycle. 96% of the A7A5 supply was reminted after a burn process.
It is a brilliant blockchain laundering technique.
Explain the burn for our operatives listening. Why is that so effective?
Well, in blockchain architecture, burning a token means sending it to a dead wallet address where the cryptographic keys are unknown. It is permanently locked, destroyed. So they take the A7A5 tokens from the heavily monitored Garantex wallets, they burn them, and then the central issuer immediately mints brand new tokens to replace them.
So it is essentially like taking stolen serial-numbered gold bars, melting them down in a furnace, and casting brand new coins before the feds can even open the vault.
That is precisely what it is. It severs the digital forensic trail completely. Those clean tokens were then flushed through single-use burner wallets before safely landing in Grinex accounts.
But pulling off an industrialized laundering operation of that scale? I mean, you can't just be a clever coder in a basement. You need massive institutional backing.
You need a syndicate. And the architects behind this are an unholy alliance. Let's look at the four pillars of this network.
Starting with the financier, Elon Shore.
a Moldovan fugitive.
Right. He orchestrated the theft of roughly $1 billion from Moldovan banks back in 2014, fled to Russia, got citizenship, and was sanctioned for interfering in Moldovan elections.
Corporate filings show he owns 51% of the A7 LLC network. He brings the capital.
Then you have the institutional muscle, which is arguably the most dangerous part of this file. Pромsvyazbank, or PSB.
The state bank.
Exactly. It is a sanctioned Russian state-owned bank that finances the military-industrial complex. They hold the actual fiat ruble deposits that back the A7A5 token.
Because the stablecoin is useless if the market doesn't believe the cash is actually sitting in a vault somewhere.
Right. Then for jurisdictional distance, you have the issuer, Old Vector LLC. It is just a shell company registered to a random residential address on the outskirts of Bishkek.
And finally, the operational brains, Sergei Mendeleev and the surviving Garantex leadership. The intelligence shows they held meetings with Shore's representatives to design this whole system long before the Secret Service ever kicked in their doors.
They saw the vulnerability of a centralized server and built a decentralized escape hatch.
And in doing so, they essentially built a replacement for SWIFT.
This brings us to the core of the briefing, the agency model and mirror trading. This is where the mechanics get highly sophisticated.
It is a legally complex loophole that completely bypasses the fundamental concept of sanctions. Sanctions only work if money has to cross a border.
Right. If a Moscow business sends dollars to Hong Kong, SWIFT flags it, the global banking system freezes it.
So the agency model simply asks, what if the money never leaves the country?
Transparency International actually proved how easy this is. They ran an undercover sting. Their researchers posed as a Hong Kong electronics exporter.
And they contacted XFed, which is another Garantex offshoot.
And they didn't use the dark web. They literally just messaged them on Telegram.
The friction for a sanctioned entity doing international business is practically zero.
30 minutes. That was the onboarding time. No know your customer checks, no serious compliance, just a Telegram group chat with a lawyer and a finance manager.
So let's unpack the transaction flow. How does the agency model actually move the value?
Let's use an example. You are a Russian importer. You need dual-use microchips from that supplier in Hong Kong.
Step 1. The importer pays fiat rubles to a domestic Russian agent company. In the sting, it was a company called Paysol LLC.
So to a domestic bank auditor, this just looks like a standard internal transaction between two local Russian businesses?
Exactly. Completely benign. And step 2, the money stays right there. It never leaves Russia.
The rubles are trapped.
Yes. But step 3 is where the mirror effect happens. An offshore partner related to that Russian agent in the sting, it was a Hong Kong shell company, Constellium.
Right.
That shell company pays the foreign supplier. Not in rubles, but in U.S. dollar-pegged USDT or even physical offshore dollars.
The funds are physically and legally separated. The money stays in Russia. The goods move globally. Traditional banking sanctions are totally blind to this because that cross-border financial link is severed.
And to make sure customs is just as blind, they manipulate the trade data.
The HS codes.
Yes, HS codes are the DNA of global trade. They classify what a product is. In the shadow grid, those codes are being edited like a spreadsheet.
So a shipment of military-grade guidance chips gets reclassified as civilian washing machine parts.
Precisely. And if law enforcement manages to seize one of the agent's web domains, they just pivot.
Which brings us to MK and Ncoin. This was a detail in the reports that really highlighted the adaptability of the network. MK Ncoin mimics Garantex's crypto-to-cash service entirely through Telegram bots.
They don't even need a website to operate a multi-billion-dollar financial clearinghouse.
And the scale here is mind-boggling. We're talking about A7, A5 processing over $93 billion. Some sources say over $100 billion.
In less than a year. The token's market cap tripled to over $500 million in weeks. This volume rivals the GDP of small nations.
And it is not retail volume. Chainalysis tracked the telemetry. The volume spikes massively Monday through Friday during business hours and goes completely dead on the weekends.
That is the footprint of industrialized corporate settlement. This isn't crypto bros trading on their phones. This is a state-backed B2B financial grid.
And they use a service called the Instant Swapper. Sanctioned entities can take this A7A5 token, swap it for USDT with zero KYC, and instantly access global dollar liquidity.
Which brings us to the stakes. This is not a victimless white-collar accounting trick.
Not at all. The A7 leaks detailed exactly what this network is funding. It is dual-use tech smuggling, components for the Russian military-industrial complex.
And political subversion. Millions of dollars were funneled through this exact blockchain network to pay activists and buy votes to disrupt Moldova's pro-European elections.
It is the weaponization of decentralized finance.
Yeah.
And it feels like a total whack-a-mole situation for the West.
It is. The US and EU did eventually sanction Grinex, Xvade, and the A785 token in late 2025. Major platforms like Uniswap blocked the token.
But the network just adapts again.
Exactly. The latest intel shows them issuing digital promissory notes. It is redeemable for physical cash via Telegram bots at off-the-books offices.
So if you block the digital route, they just build a physical bridge.
The core lesson from this case file is that sanctions evasion has mutated. It is a highly sophisticated, multi-jurisdictional infrastructure now. Traditional economic weapons are losing their edge.
It really points to the end of undisputed US dollar and SWIFT hegemony. We are seeing the rise of geopolitically aligned, region-specific stablecoins.
Which leaves us with a very clinical, very dangerous strategic thought.
What happens when a massive global superpower one with a massive economy and global trade influence decides to formally adopt this exact blueprint to bypass the Western financial system entirely?
The blueprint is proven, the technology is off the shelf, it is only a matter of time.
Case file closed. The bigger the empire, the harder the fall. Stay ahead of the curve. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your intelligence analysis in the comments. Your contribution is vital to this lab. New briefings available every Saturday. You've been listening to Corporate Files Lab, briefings on AI, business, and geopolitics.